This is Mission Control Houston. Coming up next on NASA TV, an STS-135 crew question and answer with the news media as the Space Shuttle Atlantis rolls out to the launch pad 39A for its final mission into space. We'll be bringing you that question and answer live on NASA TV in just a few moments.
Roll out to the scheduled rollout for the Space Shuttle program, and to help commemorate this particular milestone, we're lucky enough to have the 4 astronauts who will fly on the last Space Shuttle mission for the Space Shuttle program. The STS-135 crew here. We're going to take some, open up with a statement and then take some questions, and I'll turn it over to Henry, sir.
Well, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. I'll just give you a very brief opening remark, but the show pretty much tells itself. It's behind me here. It's the final rollout to the pad of the Space Shuttle Atlantis. Somebody had asked me on the STA, we have a few media folks traveling with us, and they said, well, you know, what does this mean to you? Everyone says it's bittersweet. Well, it's true, it is bittersweet. And then they said, well, what's the sweet part? I don't understand it. And the fact is that we have this vehicle behind us, and we've had it working for us for 30 years. And we're going to look upon this final mission as a celebration of all that the Space Shuttle has accomplished over its 30-year lifespan. Of course, in this past 1/3 of its flights, it was busy building the International Space Station, and without the Space Shuttle, we wouldn't have that. So. What I'd like to do is briefly introduce the crew. We'll open up the floor for questions. To my left is Doug Hurley. Doug Hurley is the pilot of this mission. This is his second flight. He flew on STS-127. He's a graduate of Tulane University. Comes from upstate New York, and I'll pass it off to him. Doug?
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Just want to echo Chris's remarks. Thanks for coming, and we're really looking forward to the mission. To my left, our mission specialist 1. She's got a PhD from Georgia Tech. She's flown 3 times, 4.5-month expedition to the space station, and she's our load master and the boss of the MPLM.
Thanks, Doug. It's really great to be out here and see Atlantis roll out. It's always spectacular to see the orbiter come out of the VAB. It looks so tiny, but it's really quite massive, and it's very majestic. So we're really happy to be here. To my left is Rex Wilhelm, Mission Specialist 2. Rex and I actually started together in the astronaut office. He came from the Air Force after a 23-year career, retired as a colonel, with degrees from Berkeley and the University of Houston in mechanical and industrial engineering. And actually, just on a more personal note, his wife was involved in designing our patch, and it really turned out well, and we're really, really proud of it.
Thanks. Just want to echo what everybody said. It's a great pleasure to be here and to see our vehicle rolling out to the launch pad. Is just a tremendous sight. It really brings it home that, hey, this is real. It also brings it home just how big that spacecraft is. So it's a pleasure to be here, and we want to thank all the folks from the Kennedy Space Center who got it to this point to get it ready to roll out to the pad. And with that, I guess we're ready for questions.
Hi, Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. Probably for the commander. As you go about and you're talking to the workforce, I'm wondering if you're encountering more bitter than sweet because people are losing their jobs and the direction is not quite as clear as many would like.
You know, Marcia, you might think that, but I'll tell you, this is a tried and true group of professionals, and I've been nothing, and I think the rest of the crew would back me up on this, it has been nothing but ultra impressive to see a lot of people who are clearly at a crossroads in their life. You know, a lot of them will be moving on and doing other things, stay so focused and motivated on the final mission. I mean, they clearly have a vested interest in making sure that this mission goes off as successful as we are, and I've seen absolutely no indication of any ill feelings towards NASA, towards the country. I mean, I think that they're just elated to have been a part of this program for 30 years.
Hi, Denise Chow at Space.com, just following up on Marcia's question. Apparently there are thousands of people here today to watch Atlantis roll out to the pad. How special is it for you guys to be here to see that and to share that with a lot of the people that really put this program together for so long?
We couldn't be more honored to be here and share it with them. I mean, this is obviously the priority for us is to safely accomplish the STS-135 ULF-7 mission, but I think almost as strong is to just be able to share this experience with the folks that have worked on this vehicle for 30-plus years. And, you know, we wouldn't be anywhere else but here tonight, so we're very honored to be here.
Bill Harwood, CBS News. Really for any of you, you know, watching this vehicle roll out to the pad and Endeavour coming home tonight, it's almost, I don't know, you could use any metaphor in the world. It's passing the baton. It's the beginning of the end. It's all of those things. I mean, when you guys look at that vehicle and realize it's the last time we will ever see this moment, moving to a launch pad, and pretty soon the last time we'll ever see a launch, that's quite a milestone. I mean, it's really something. I mean, what is it in your gut? What does it make you feel when you see this machine?
You know, I mentioned it when I introduced Rex. It really is. I mean, look at this vehicle. Look how majestic it looks rolling out to the launch pad. Look at that and see what we can do when we put our minds to it. Look at this vehicle that's been flying for 30 years with a versatility that's just incredible. And just imagine what we can do with that kind of a legacy and how we can move forward and what we can do next. I mean, it's just really impressive. And I think that refers back to Chris's bittersweet. I mean, it's really hard to say goodbye to the program, but on the other hand, look at the great things that we've accomplished and look what we can do with that in the next era. So it really does have a range of emotions as you watch this majestic vehicle go out to the launch pad for the last time.
Good to see you guys tonight. Greg Polo, News 13, and thanks for answering that bittersweet question again, Chris. Appreciate that. We got a 4-member crew here. Haven't seen that since about, what, 83? So we were talking earlier about the duties are going to be divided, and this is a regular flight. You've got a lot of work ahead, and at the same time, the work needs to be done by a 4-person crew. Can you touch on that and not getting much sleep with the flight coming up?
Yeah, we're going to have our work cut out for us. The unique part about this mission is the number of people on board. With only 4 people on board, you have a lot of tasks you have to finish with 4 people. And usually you have 7, obviously, 6 or 7. So the tasks themselves are not that unique. You know, we're going to help the station crew do a spacewalk. We're going to be transferring a bunch of supplies, rendezvous, re-entry, and deorbit. So we just have less people to do that. So that kind of just lets each one of us broaden our skill set a little bit. You know, I joke that I get to get into the pilots union a little bit with some of the water transfer and some of the shuttle stuff I get to do, and they get to get in some of the mission specialist union when they're doing some helping with the EVAs and help with the robotics work. So we all get a little bit of career broadening with this flight. So it'll be fun. It's going to be challenging. Like Fergie says, we don't have a lot of white space or free time on the mission. And I imagine if Fergie floats by and we're not doing something, he'd probably yell at us because we should be doing something. So we're going to be real busy this mission.
Scott Powers from the Orlando Sentinel. Your mission was one that was on the maybe status for a long time. I'd like to hear from each of you briefly, if I could, where you were and what you thought the moment it was locked in.
I don't think that moment ever really existed. You know, it was going to be a rescue flight for a while for 134. We had an external tank. We knew that 134 needed support in the case of we call CSCS, Contingency Shuttle Crew Support. So it was billed as the rescue shuttle, and then momentum began to build towards, well, since it's going to be a rescue shuttle, and if it launches, we're going to need to resupply the station. Well, let's fill the MPLM full of cargo and take that cargo up. And oh, by the way, the crew, we're going to have to train the crew anyway, so let's train them on the full mission. And then eventually this, this began to build some momentum, and before you knew it, the stage was set, and then the final element was the rescue aspect. How do we provide for the rescue of the crew? I'll let somebody else address that. But you could see how the momentum built, but there was never that hallelujah. Okay, I think we're finally going to fly this until I think the reality kind of set in about 2 or 3 months ago when I think a lot of you started writing about it, and they said, okay, well, maybe we really are going to fly because I'm reading it in the newspaper now. You talk about the rescue.
Yeah, a little bit with the rescue scenario. I mean, the crew size is kind of based on that because we all end up having to go back down on Soyuz rockets as they sequence through, and they're not going to modify their timeline. So if we do end up in that particular scenario, we end up over the course of roughly a year from the time we would be up on orbit before the last person gets down. And as Fergie likes to say, I drew the long straw in that deal. And so as I told my boss, Peggy Whitson, I said, well, you get if it works out that way, I get a year-long expedition for 9 months of training, so that's a pretty good return on the investment. I'm sure Sandy would tell you that, since she spent about 3.5 or 4 years training for her 4.5-month expedition. So that's a little bit about the rescue, and I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I've been looking forward to this day because we get the funding question all the time. It's been always been dogging us, hey, you guys really going to fly or not? And I told them, hey, when we roll out to the pad, there's going to come a point where it's cheaper just to launch us, You got to bring it back to the pad, you got to take it apart and clean the SRBs. We just need one match, and we can do that all for yourself. So make it even easier. So we're looking forward to having it on the pad. Then it really does bring it home that it's really going to happen.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing, and I guess the other thing that we probably need to address is just the training aspect. And when we were assigned to the mission, we knew we were going to train for a rescue mission with the possibility of being a full mission. But how you approach training is exactly the same. You have to prepare for the tasks that you're going to do or potentially going to do. So we've been very focused on that preparation regardless of the status of what the mission was going to be. So as it slowly morphed into a real mission, I think it allowed us sort of emotionally starting to get very excited about it at the same time. But the training has always been very focused on, making sure we understood what we need to do and getting ready to accomplish that.
Hi, Mike Mackey from the CBS here in Orlando. I understand and I appreciate you have a lot of work to do before launch, and then there's the launch and the mission, but this is history and it means so much to the people here in Central Florida. Could each of you just discuss what you'll be thinking, what you'll be feeling as you approach back and land?
Boy, I'm going to be thinking of a good landing. Because our pilot types tend to judge ourselves by, what do they say, you're only as good as your last landing. But I think I know where you're getting at, that will be, I think, a crucial time for the crew because, as you said, Mike, we're very focused on the mission. We want to make sure we go out and execute and do this mission as safely and as thoroughly as the missions that have preceded it. But there will be that moment, and I'd like to think that moment's going to occur after the wheels stop on the runway, where we finally get a chance to exhale, hopefully with a successful mission behind us, and contemplate what this really means. It's going to be a little difficult, I think, for me personally to get off the shuttle. Although at the same time, I do consider it an honor to be a part of this last crew. But I think that the ASPs, our crew support astronauts, are going to have to literally drag me off because it's going to be difficult. And I'm sure we all have a similar thought that way, but I'll pass it down the line.
Yeah, I would echo Fergie's remarks. I mean, obviously, the landing task, you are hyper-focused on getting Atlantis back safely. But it really, I think, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I'm really looking forward to, after they pry us, all four of us, I think, out of the orbiter, to just get down and kind of share that moment with the folks that have literally been here since the first orbiter showed up, and be on the runway with them and spend some time with them, and then, down the road in our post-flight and that kind of thing, just being able to get back here and kind of share those memories. And I mean, we've gotten a chance to do that already at some of our other visits down here, talking to folks that have been with Atlantis since she rolled out of Palmdale. So I think that's going to be, one of the more important things we want to do before we just put this in the history book, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think Doug has touched on a critical point. We're going to be sitting there on the orbiter contemplating 30 years of a spectacular program, and all of the people across the whole country, including, Florida, who have made the program successful. I mean, think about it. We make shuttle launches look easy, and we have for years now, and it's because all the people, thousands and thousands of people are involved, have to do everything right 100% of the time. And you just don't have that kind of a quality workforce anywhere in the country. This is a very special workforce. There are very special people who have worked in the space program and on the shuttle program. And when we stop that day, those wheels, those people should feel very proud of what they've been a part of and what we've been able to accomplish. And I think that'll be a real large part of what we're thinking.
Yeah, I think so too. I echo that. It will hit us after wheel stop. We're going to be busy until then. And then I think I really want to be upbeat, and I want to be a celebration instead of sad, because it is a celebration of 30 years of the magnificent accomplishments of this vehicle. And the way I like to look at it is that the legacy of the space shuttle lives on. So instead of just looking at the shuttle stopping, you look at what it's done, and you look at Hubble that it launched and that it fixed and repeatedly fixed. It'll still be out there taking pictures of the universe and discovering the origins of things we don't know, rewriting the textbooks. And you look at the space station. It's just now finishing its assembly process, so now we're just letting go of it in the utilization phase, and it can really go out and do its work on scientific research. And we can still at night watch the space station fly over and think, hey, we helped build that thing. And so I think that's what we're going to kind of concentrate on. All the people who helped get the space shuttle launching and continue to do it over 30 years are the people who basically built the space station.
Hi, I'm Frank Moriarty from New Jersey Monthly, and my question is for Chris, although Sandy just mentioned how NASA, when things are going very well, makes the space shuttle look almost effortless in what happens. You were born in Philadelphia, like Bart Kelly was born in New Jersey, and in the northeast part of the country sometimes I think people almost have not a hostile attitude towards funding the space program, but perhaps they've lost some of the excitement about it. And by making space become something that happens on a regular basis, it kind of loses some of the allure. How do you address that, and how can you deal with that type of attitude and try to maybe turn things around going forward?
We were talking about that just earlier. You know, how do you keep this in the forefront? Because we find out that, you know, sometimes when the space program ends up on the front page now, it's because we've had a problem, and we certainly don't want to be famous for problems. So how do you keep it in the forefront and keep young men and women interested in space? And that's a challenge, because largely NASA is a victim of its own success, because when we continually do the same thing, as Sandy had alluded to, over and over again and make it look easy, suddenly it doesn't become, you know, it's no longer front page news. I think the way to do that is to just keep pushing forward and do those things that intrigue people. They say, my goodness, you know, NASA is now going beyond low Earth orbit, they're going to an asteroid, they're going back to the moon. I think it's to constantly keep it moving and fresh. And it's difficult nowadays. There's a lot of distractions for young men and women's attention out there that you and I didn't have as we were growing up. You know, we had the television and we had the 3 basic networks, and that was it. Now there's just so many other sources of information out there, and I think it is important for NASA to keep its mission clear and focused and fresh. And I think we're going to see that as we go beyond low Earth orbit again here. You know, hopefully within the next 7-8 years.
Thanks. I wish all 4 of you a great flight.
Thanks so much, Frank.
Hi, Irene Fox with Reuters. I think for Sandy, you're right, it is majestic, and it is really symbolic of what people can do when they put their minds to it, but it's not really NASA's choice to, like, be in charge of what it wants to do. And when this program, when it was decided that the United States was going to end this program, there was something else that was kind of next up. How comfortable are you with this kind of this abyss that the U.S. space program seems to be moving very close to?
Well, you know, it's interesting because times of transition are very difficult, and we're certainly in a time of transition. And as you know, the decision to retire the shuttles was made a long time ago, and it was based on the fact that instead of recertifying them and putting all of the resources into recertifying a low Earth orbit vehicle, that we would move beyond and take those resources and choose to move beyond. And now we're in a national debate about where we should move beyond to and how we should do that. And it's difficult, as we're moving through that transition, it's difficult to see the big picture because we're all caught up in the little details. I think in the end we'll end up with a good plan and we'll have a solid future ahead of us, and we're just working our way through this very difficult transition in the meantime.
Thanks.
And if I could just throw in, Irene, and Sandy is the champion of the International Space Station, so I'm surprised she didn't mention it. I'm going to mention it for her. But we are not, you know, I mean, you may have used the word abyss, but of course we have, you know, an American astronaut on board the space station right now. Here, coming up shortly, June 7th, just a short week away, we're launching a Japanese astronaut who has trained with the U.S. space program, as a lot of our foreign international partners have, and of course Mike Fossum, who will soon be the commander of the International Space Station. So, you know, we have the International Space Station ready to enter, you know, what we're calling the utilization phase. Hopefully we're going to see 10 years of good quality science out of it as well. So I realize it appears an abyss from a launcher standpoint, but we still have a vibrant program going on.
Thanks.
You happy? Very good. Sandy was happy.
And John Roberts from Fox News. I just wanted to build on that. I talked with Mike Leinbach earlier tonight, who said that he really believes with the retirement of the shuttle program, America is losing a piece of its identity. It's going to be at least 5 years in a best-case scenario before Orion blasts off. And I'm wondering, do you see it that way? Is this a loss of some sense of American identity? And what will this country be missing for the very first time since Alan Shepard blasted off? We're not going to have a launch vehicle. We're not going to be leading the way in putting people into space.
Rex, I'm going to put you on the spot. Rex gave an excellent answer to this question last week, so I'm going to let you remember your answer and give it.
Don't misremember.
Yeah, no, well, it really is. I think what we're going to miss with the space shuttle retirement is number one, we're going to miss a little bit of grace. I mean, that is the most graceful, beautiful vehicle we've had to fly in space ever, I think, in my opinion. And it's going to be a long time till you see a vehicle roll into the pad that looks as beautiful as that. I mean, how can you beat that? An airplane sitting on the side of a rocket. It's absolutely stunning. So I think we lose a little bit of grace and beauty and also a little bit of majesty. You can't watch that vehicle roll by without thinking what an amazing achievement America has, that America can build something like that and can put people inside of it and sling them off this earth into space. It's absolutely amazing. And most of all, when you really see the grandeur when you witness a launch. I think a lot of you have already seen launches, and you know what it's like. You don't just see a launch, you experience a launch. It's not just us who experience it. You sit there and you watch it, and you see it rise, and then you start feeling it as it vibrates, and it's something you experience. And I wish all Americans could see that. And it really does make me proud to be an American to see it do that. Now, I think we'll get there eventually and have a new vehicle, but it's going to be a different vehicle, and it's going to take some time. But you have the same brilliant engineers that were really smart back in the 70s that built that and designed it. We still have smart engineers coming out of schools. They're still going to come up with something, and we'll get there. We're in a process of transition now, and it's going to be awkward, but we'll get to the other side, and we'll have new vehicles. But I really do have to say, though, it's going to be hard to beat a vehicle that is so beautiful and majestic as that one is.
Do you agree with your launch director that we are losing a little piece of our American identity with the retirement of the shuttle?
I think so, because we are identified with it for 30 years. So in a way we are. That is a quintessential American vehicle. You point to that and people know it's from the United States. So I think we're losing that piece of identity. I think we'll identify with a new vehicle as it comes on and new achievements. So as much as the space shuttle has done its mission to launch the interplanetary probes, to launch the Hubble Space Telescope, to build the space station is completed. So it has done its job, and it's done its job admirably. Now it's time to move on to something, to get on to past low Earth orbit. So we could continue flying the shuttle, and it is a beautiful vehicle, like I say, but we got to get out of low Earth orbit. And so to do that, we need a new vehicle.
It's never good to disagree with your launch director. Good luck to you all.
And we have one last question.
Hi, James Dean with Florida Today. I think all of your flights between you were either on Atlantis or Endeavour, if I'm not mistaken. So just wondered how special it is for you to not only be here for the last rollout of Atlantis, of course, but also a chance to welcome your crewmates in on Atlantis' or Endeavour's final return. And will you actually have an early tag up with them once they're back to compare some notes before your flight?
About 4 hours. Yeah, hopefully they'll be back soon. Rex he's got all the frequent flyer miles on Atlantis, so I think I'm going to let him answer that question since that's the only vehicle he's flown on.
Yeah, I've flown Atlantis 3 times. That's my policy. I only fly in Atlantis. So I do have a special bond with it. It's a beautiful vehicle, and it just works great. It's got me to orbit and back safely twice, and I'm looking forward to going on a 3rd time. So I'm sure each vehicle is a little bit unique, so some of the folks who've flown on different vehicles can tell me. But I remember on my last time when I climbed on board Atlantis for STS-122, after it was been 6 years since 110, and I got on board on launch day, and I took a smell, and it smells like Atlantis, and I know there's a lot of space program stuff, all the materials that are inside the space shuttle, but it felt like home, and it was really neat to get on board Atlantis. And I'm really looking forward to getting on board again and take a whiff and saying, hey, it's back at Atlantis, and it feels good to be home.
Okay, that was our last question. If we could just take the microphone and just take a second to one last statement.
Yeah, I would like to. As we watch Atlantis slowly crawl over the horizon there, I just, at the expense of waving the American flag, which I do as often as I can, what you see there is a product of a nation who is willing to combine its resources to build a world-class vehicle that has no duplicate whatsoever. And not only did we pull the resources together to build something like that, but we had the courage to stick through it through thick and thin. And there is thick and thin in every major program like the space shuttle. And I think we can look back and really take the sweet part about all this and say that, you know, we are blessed to have been a part of it, all of us, not just perhaps the chosen few who are lucky enough to fly it, but as a country, I think we can look back and say, you know, my gosh, to my grandkids, I remember when we flew the space shuttle, and I remember the proud moment I felt when I felt a rumble in my chest when I watched the space shuttle launch, and I long for those days again. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention. Hope you enjoy the rest of the evening and rest of the show, and you know, we'll see you out here launch day. Chris, we got a bunch of people who want to make a group photo over here.
Hey, we just take a shot this way of you guys and.
Go a little bit. Back a little bit. Actually, and back on your line. Back on your line. Back on your line. There you go. Okay, tighten up, guys.
There you go. New NASA employees. Fantastic.
Okay, you guys want to step out? How old you got? Okay, good. Got it? Okay. Yeah. Okay, there's a bunch of people rotating. Hey guys, straight ahead. Great.